Are you looking for a light neutral that's not a warm gray? You just don't want to see the green-gray undertones, but at the same time, you don't want to use a beige. You don't want to see the yellow undertones, the gold, the green beiges, pink beiges, and the list goes on. Then perhaps Sherwin Williams Modern Gray just might be the perfect paint color for your home. But there's some key details that you need to know about this paint color, and for the record, it's not a warm gray. I'm going to show you the undertones of Sherwin Williams Modern Gray by comparing it with other contrasting paint colors so that you can see the undertones yourself. Next, I'm going to compare it with some other neutrals so that you can see what makes this paint color so unique, and I'm going to prove my point what the undertone of this paint color is. So it's super important. And then towards the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 2 valuable tips that you should know about Sherwin Williams Modern Gray. Watch what happens when I compare it with Benjamin Moore Santorini Blue. Watch this. When you compare Santorini Blue with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray, this is where you're going to see the beige undertones. However, the beige undertones are cooler than the typical beige. Now watch what happens when I compare it with Sherwin Williams Oyster Bay, and this is where it gets really interesting. So listen carefully, watch this. When you compare Oyster Bay with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray, this is where you're going to notice the warm gray. However, it is cooler than your typical warm gray. So what you need to know about Sherwin Williams Modern Gray is that it's a taupe. It's not a warm gray. There's no green-gray undertones. And I'm going to prove it to you by comparing it with some other warm grays so that you can see it for yourself. Now watch what happens when I compare this with Benjamin Moore Revere Pewter, which is considered a warm gray. Watch this. When you compare Revere Pewter with Modern Gray, you're going to instantly see the green undertones in Revere Pewter, but notice how Modern Gray looks like a cooler gray, but you don't see the blue-gray undertones. It leans on the warm side, and again, you don't see any green-gray undertones, and this is what makes Modern Gray a taupe. Now watch what happens when I compare it with Sherwin Williams Accessible Beige, which is considered a warm gray. Watch this. When you compare Accessible Beige with Modern Gray, again, you're going to see the green-gray undertones in Accessible Beige, but notice how Modern Gray looks like a cooler gray without the blue-gray undertones, and again, you don't see any green-gray undertones. This is what makes it a taupe. Now watch what happens when I compare this with Sherwin Williams Skyline Still, which is considered a warm gray. Watch this. When you compare Skyline Still with Modern Gray, you're going to instantly see the green-gray undertones in Skyline Still. And again, notice how Sherwin Williams Modern Gray, it leans on the cool side of warm grays. And again, you do not see any green-gray undertones. So what you need to know about Sherwin Williams Modern Gray is that it's lighter than a beige and it's cooler than a warm gray. And this is what makes Modern Gray a taupe. And it doesn't have any green-gray undertones. However, if you don't pair it correctly, sometimes you might see just a hint of a pink undertone. And like I always say, please get a sample. Compare it with your fixed elements and your interior decor, and please be mindful on the type of lighting that you have in your home. It's so important to get this right. If you want to save time and prevent from making a costly mistake, and you want to select the correct paint colors that will pair with your fixed elements, your interior decor, and being mindful of the type of lighting that you have in your home, then I highly recommend you go to my website, check out my online packages. I can help you with both interior and exterior paint colors. And please read the reviews, see what clients have to say. I would love to help you. Next, I'm going to share with you 2 valuable tips that you should know about Sherwin Williams Modern Gray. Tip number 1, trim paint colors. I'm going to share with you 2 warm-off whites that pair really well with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray as a trim paint color, assuming that you have warm fixed elements in your home. So watch what happens when I compare this with Benjamin Moore Simply White, which is considered a warm off-white. Watch this. When you compare Simply White with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray, you're going to notice how Simply White is light and bright. You're going to see just a touch of warmth. This makes it a really beautiful, clean, warm off-white trim paint color that pairs fantastic with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray. Now watch what happens when I compare this with Sherwin Williams Whitetail, which is considered a warm off-white. And by the way, I have a recent paint color review that will tell you everything that you need to know about Sherwin Williams Whitetail. Feel free to go to my website to learn more about this paint color. Watch this. When I compare Whitetail with Sherwin Williams Modern Gray, this is where you're going to notice how Whitetail is a little bit warmer and it has more contrast in comparison to Benjamin Moore Simply White. Yet at the same time, it's still a clean, beautiful warm off-white. Tip number 2, lighting. Sherwin Williams Modern Gray excels in south-facing rooms. It's going to look like a beige without the yellow undertones. It's going to look like a gray without the green-gray undertones. It's a textbook taupe. It's beautiful. And in a north-facing room, it's going to lean more on the cool side. And if you don't pair this correctly, don't be surprised if you see just a hint of a pink undertone. So please get a paint sample, compare it with your fixed elements, and be mindful on the type of lighting that you have in your home. I want you to get this right. If you found this video helpful, please put a like. I want to hear from you. And for those of you that want to get in-depth reviews about paint colors that you can't find anywhere else online, highly recommend you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I would love to have you here. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.